I was not expecting such intense kiss scenes, but yeah, both of them are pretty insane. I did not notice they had this chemistry and Unintentional Love Story. I had no idea where it was hiding, but maybe because the entire mood of this drama movie got darker, that it was shining through. Like, there's no way you can tell me that these two are not the cutest. So I am so excited to be talking about the highly anticipated prequel to Unintentional Love Story, and that is The Time of Fever. So I assumed if you clicked on this video, you were one of the many patiently waiting for this to drop after hearing Unintentional Love Story had a prequel. And yeah, all of us were waiting, September 12th, patiently waiting. I am so excited to be talking about it because I've been waiting forever for it to come out. I watched Unintentional Love Story and it was like, okay, it wasn't like the best and it wasn't the worst, but also I did not care about these two characters back then because they were the second leads actually in Unintentional Love Story. But the trailer, like, that thing looks so good that I was so excited to watch it. And basically it got released in movies and then was not available on streaming platforms for several months. And so yeah, I patiently waited. I put it on my currently watching because I literally did not want to forget about it. And yeah, the day it dropped, September 12th, I watched all of it, and yeah, it was just as good as the trailer. It was so good. So just in case you have not watched yet, I will just give the plot real quick. So it's about Hotae and Donghee, who have grown up like brothers since childhood. A few years ago, Hotae, who had moved to Seoul, returned to Gangneung after his father's funeral. Meanwhile, Donghee, who had come out and was kicked out of his home, began living alone in Hotae's empty house. Reuniting after a long time, the two start living together under one roof. Meeting Donghee after a long time, Hotae also starts experiencing emotions he has never felt before. During his confused state, Hotae starts recklessly dating girls. Witnessing Hotae like this hurts Donghee, and after an unexpected incident, the delicate relationship between the two starts to gradually shift. So next up, I just want to give a little bit of the background. I mean, one thing is, I mentioned earlier that this is the prequel to Unintentional Love Story, and that's just another BL, but actually the two main characters of this are only the side characters in Unintentional Love Story, so this is kind of like the explanation of why their relationship was like that in the original. So The Time of Fever is directed by Yang Kyung-hee, who also did Love Tractor, The Director Who Buys Me Dinner, Kissable Lips, and The Tasty Florida, none of which I've actually seen. Yeah, this was my first Yang Kyung-hee director's work, but I do feel like there's a significant difference in the style of this and the style of Unintentional Love Story. I would say that this one's a lot better, but the original director of Unintentional Love Story, I'm pretty sure is the same director that worked on Where Eyes Linger, so I think the original director is also good. It just was a completely different style. Also, there is a difference between drama and movie vibes, but this one, I really like the vibes of this one. Unlike the director that was different from the original series, the writer is Shin Yu, who did write the original Unintentional Love Story, and Shin Yu also worked on Where Your Eyes Linger, which means I've seen all their works, because there's like 3. Before I get into the characters, I just wanted to share real quick that I do think that The Time of Fever is better than Unintentional Love Story. So if you think that you need to go watch the other one before watching this one, I would honestly watch this one first and then watch Unintentional Love Story, because I low-key forgot their story in Unintentional Love Story. So that's why I would recommend watching this first, because this is the chronological order. So you see them where they left off, I guess, in Unintentional Love Story. But one thing is the consistency is not there. Like, this feels completely different. Their characters have the same names, but that's literally it in terms of characters, in terms of personality. Like, nothing seems to be the same. I just don't see how these events have made them who they are in the next season, and I'm pretty sure it's just because this was written after. I think it's so clear about that. I do have to say, Unintentional Love Story will be a downgrade, but yeah, that's just what it is. So for the characters, I'm just going to talk about 2. It's just going to be the 2 main characters because everyone else is just kind of a side character and honestly not that important. So first up, we're going to talk about Donghee, and I would say he's the main character. Donghee is the number 1 student in the school. From the outside, he seems perfect. He's smart, he's nice, he's friendly, but his home life is drastically different. After coming out, Donghee's dad begins to hit Donghee, and that's why he eventually goes to live in Hotae's empty house while Hotae is away in Seoul. And Donghee harbors the secret that he is gay and has not come out to like anyone basically. And throughout the movie, he struggles with his feelings for Hotae. Hotae is Donghee's childhood friend. The two were separated for a little bit when Hotae went to Seoul to live with his dad, but upon his dad passing away, he returns back to his house where Donghee is currently staying, and the two reunite again. He's your stereotypical jock. He's a swimmer. He's got the worst grades, but he has the biggest heart. He's also a little slow when it comes to emotional intelligence. And although Hotae is now grown up, he keeps loitering around Donghee, following him around, wanting to talk to him all the time, wanting to see him all the time. And it's during this time that Donghee begins to distance himself from Hotae because of Dong-hee's feelings, and Hotae gets really upset with Dong-hee for doing these things. And as the two continue to spend time together, Hotae also begins to experience feelings that he has no idea what they're about. So in terms of rating, this is a clear 9 out of 10.
Wow.
There is like 2 major flaws, I'd say, but I think if you look at the movie as a standalone, it's really good. I'm usually actually not a big movie watcher. I usually feel like they're too short. Obviously, we do have a little bit more insight onto their relationship past the series because there's a show that they're in. But they actually are such a minor part in Unintentional Love Story that it's honestly, I feel like this you could really just see as a standalone almost. Okay, so basically one thing is it's supposed to be a movie, but when they put it on streaming platforms, they made it into a show. So that's the reason why I'm going to keep referring it to as the movie / show. I obviously only was able to see the six episode version instead of the full movie version, but ultimately it's supposed to be a movie, so I don't really count it as like a short drama series with 6 episodes. It feels like a movie. So yeah, I really think of it as a movie, and I don't kind of have the same criteria that I hold with dramas. And I feel like the main reason that I love this so much is just the attention to detail. I'm so big on how little details can explain the entire plotline, like big show not tell, you know? And I think this movie did a lot of showing. There's a lot of like visual cues that allow you to understand what's going on without explicitly saying it. And I am such a sucker for like angst and these romantic vibes. It's got this like dark coloring that I also really liked. It reminds me a lot of To My Star, and I absolutely love To My Star. I rated To My Star a 10, okay? But To My Star was a short drama, whereas this was a movie. Like this was like 2 hours, whereas To My Star must have been 4. So it had double the duration, and it also has 2 seasons, but both seasons are about that same character, so that's kind of why they had a little more time. But I just thought it was really beautiful. It did a lot of things right and a lot of things really, really well. I feel like this is actually such a standout in terms of movies. For a drama, it's about like the same. Yeah, if I want to give it some credit, it is a movie after all. Had not enough time to accomplish what it could have. And I guess that's a little sad because this I honestly thought would have done so much better as a longer drama series. I think there's a little bit more I wanted to see. I wanted the ending to be a little bit different. I actually have so much to say about it, so let's just jump into the summary so I can move on to the pros soon. The story begins when Hotae moves back home after his father dies. Like I mentioned earlier, Dong-hee is already living in Hotae's empty house due to some arguments with his family. Hotae is so excited to see Dong-hee again, whereas Dong-hee acts indifferently. Hotae pesters Dong-hee to show up to his swim meet, promising that he's going to get first place. Hotae unfortunately does not win first place, and Hotae breaks down crying. Dong-hee comforts him, and on their way home, he begins to make fun of Hotae, who finally gets to see Dong-hee smile for the very first time.
결국 말 안 한다며 씨. 내가 다른 사람들한테 말 안 한다 했지. 안 놀린다고 했냐? 아 진짜. 야 표정 뭐냐? 미치겠다 진짜. 미쳤다.
He's starstruck, and this is a little snippet of how their relationship has already begun to change since the two last saw each other. Dong-hee, who is already aware of his sexual orientation, begins to struggle for his growing feelings for Hotae. He keeps trying to distance himself, and Hotae doesn't really realize this and keeps barging into Dong-hee's life every opportunity he gets. Hotae literally follows Dong-hee around everywhere, sticking to him like glue. One day when they're walking home from school, it starts raining and they take shelter to dry off. Hotae helps wring out Dong-hee's wet clothes, and their close distance make both of them nervous. Hotae keeps thinking about Dong-hee and struggles with his feelings. During this time, a girl at school asks Hotae out. He agrees, but he continues to put Dong-hee before his girlfriend. This angers his girlfriends, who keep beating him up, and Dong-hee constantly tends to Hotae's wounds. During one of these instances, Hotae asks Dong-hee if he's kissed anyone before. Dong-hee replies he has, and Hotae, who's shocked, suddenly asks Dong-hee to teach him how to kiss by practicing on him.
좀 가르쳐줘. 처음에 어떻게 한다게? 그걸 어떻게 가르쳐줘? 나한테 해보면 되지. 미쳤냐? 계속 정도껏 해야지. 왜? 그냥 문짝 같은 거라고 생각해. 그 문짝에 입술 좁히면 다냐? 모르는 거 있으면 다 물어보라며.
And Dong-hee kisses him. After that, Dong-hee is heartbroken as he feels that Hotae will never be able to reciprocate his feelings. He again tries to distance himself, and Hotae profusely apologizes, promising he won't do it again, and the two are back on good terms. At night, they're hanging out in the room and they're just reading like manga and whatever stuff when Hotae keeps staring at Dong-hee's lips. He eventually jumps on Dong-hee and asks him to try the kissing thing again. So they have a very intense makeout session when Dong-hee finally pushes Hotae off.
한 번만 더 가르쳐주면 안 되냐? 호텔 한 번만 더 해보자고. 딱 한 번만, 어?
Dong-hee, once again, starts trying to avoid Hotae, and he's finally decided that he's actually going to go to university in Seoul because he feels he needs to get away from Hotae, unlike his original plans to stay in the area. Again, Hotae is profusely apologizing for the kiss again. This is a reoccurring theme because one keeps getting mad, one keeps distancing, and then... But anyways, Dong-hee is giving the cold shoulder until he suddenly asks Hotae to hang out, who is... Obviously, Hotae is just a little baby and he's just so excited to see Dong-hee. The two hang out at the beach and just, spend the day together when eventually Dong-hee drops the news on Hotae that he's leaving because he's decided to go to college in Seoul. Later, Hotae gets so upset he goes on a late night motorcycle ride for the first time and he ends up breaking his leg. And with this, Dong-hee eventually calls Hotae and kind of asks about his condition, where Hotae reveals that he can no longer swim anymore. Dong-hee secretly visits Hotae's hospital ward without saying anything, and that's kind of like their relationship at this point. They kind of are doing things and just not saying everything on their mind. This is where we are left off basically before some time passes and we see the two reunite at the beach, and that is actually the very last scene of the movie. So on to the pros, and there are quite a lot because there was a lot of things that I felt like this movie did right. So for the first up, I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, it's just really pretty. Like the coloring, the cinematography, I feel like I'm not very big on that usually, even though I literally want to work in this industry. I usually don't notice it, but just all the little details, I think all the close-up shots on what each character is seeing, like when Hotae is staring at Dong-hee's lips and then we get an insert of that. I feel like I really liked that. I feel like a lot of the drama/movie was shot from the perspective of what one of the main characters is seeing, and I just thought that made it a lot cooler, a lot nicer. You could really feel the emotions of the characters. Next up, I thought the essence of youth was really captured well because Dong-hee and Hotae are in high school. I don't know if I mentioned that anywhere, but they're really young, and you can just feel all their turbulent emotions about how they feel like this is everything, like the way Dong-hee feels so worried that their relationship is going to end, when as an adult I feel like you can see it in the grand scheme of things this isn't a big deal, but because they're so young they think that everything is life-changing, and it's just, you feel like it's such big stakes, especially when you're young, and then very dramatic in my opinion. And it's just the youthful energy of being able to laugh at just anything and just the relaxing moments of your school days. I don't know if I'd say that relaxing was my school days, but that's just kind of the carefreeness of youth. I think that was portrayed really well. And specifically, some ways were in the confusion, the way Hotae doesn't understand his feelings for Dong-hee, the way Dong-hee can't control his feelings for Hotae, and he's trying so hard to fight it, and nothing can be done, obviously. There's a lot of childishness, especially with Hotae's jealousy towards Dong-hee, and Hotae acts a lot on his childishness. The running in the rain, it's so youthful vibes. It's cute. Next up, the chemistry was insane. I was not expecting such intense kiss scenes, but both of them are pretty insane. I did not notice they had this chemistry in Unintentional Love Story. I had no idea where it was hiding, but maybe because the entire mood of this drama movie got darker, that it was shining through. There's no way you can tell me that these two are not the cutest. And I think their characters got a lot more developed in this. So that's also what made such a strong attachment. And I saw how well they fit together. But the chemistry, that was pretty good. That's one of the best chemistry I've ever seen But yeah, even besides the kiss scenes, just the intense gazing and the stares, literally the ringing shirt scene when they're just like looking at each other, and then it's like the insert of the heavy breath, like, oh yeah, it was done so well. And yeah, even aside from the sexual tension, even the little moments where they reassure each other, like when Dong-hee comes home after getting beat by his dad and he starts crying, I really felt that, Dong-hee, I really felt that. And then when Hotae starts to get sad because Dong-hee is sad, the chemistry literally going off. And then obviously I talked about the chemistry, which means I also love the way the characters were written. I love that Hotae is following his heart without knowing the entire situation and understanding his feelings, whereas Dong-hee is not following his heart because he does know how he feels. I think that was a nice little contrast. It's cute. I think the characters, Dong-hee is literally just like the introvert, Hotae is like the extrovert, jock, nerd. You know, they've got all these cliche stereotypes that weren't done in a stereotypical way, but it was a very cute, nice trope to see. One of the biggest pros is, I think I mentioned this earlier, but I just loved the fact that there's so much reading between the lines, these subtle nuances, just the things that go unsaid but are so obvious. Like throughout the drama, we see Hotae is constantly loitering around Dong-hee, and it's just unspoken why. Like Dong-hee never asks Hotae why he's doing it, and Hotae doesn't even know himself that he's probably loitering around Dong-hee like crazy, like why he wants to constantly see him, why he wants to constantly be with him, you know, why he's afraid that Dong-hee is going to leave him. None of this is verbally addressed, but we all know as the viewers, as we're watching everything play out.
지금처럼 지내면 막 내가 궁금한 거 다 물어봐도 된다는 거지. 심심하면 막 따라다녀도 되고, 어? 네 마음대로 해라. 그럼 몇 10년 뒤에도 너랑 같이 올 수 있냐? 그때까지 아무것도 안 하고 놀려고? 아씨, 그런 뜻이 아니잖아. 있어 없어 그것만 말해. 넌 당연한 걸 보고 계속 이렇게 옆에 딱 붙어서 어디 안 가고? 분리불안이야? 그게 뭔데?
And then there's also this detail that Hotae suddenly refuses to call Dong-hee Hyung, and Hyung is like older brother, and it's a very familial term, and I think the idea is that Hotae really wants to separate that Dong-hee is not his actual brother, but someone else, which means you can love them, because obviously you can't love your own brother, but I mean they kind of are, so happened anyways. Even Hotae doesn't explicitly say anything about why, because Dong-hee has actually asked Hotae why he doesn't call him Hyung anymore.
근데 너 왜 나 형이라고 안 부르냐?
And Hotae just is not able to verbalize it, but you know, as viewers, we all know why. We all know why. And then another scene that was pretty impactful was Dong-hee obviously has come out to his dad, and his dad has been abusing him because of that. So Dong-hee obviously is struggling with his sexuality, and then there's this book that's like, what would you do if I turned into a bug? And then one thing that Hotae says is that Dong-hee, even if he turned into a bug, he would still recognize him, and it doesn't matter what Dong-hee is, like whether he's grass or I forgot what other things he said, but even if Dong-hee wasn't a human, he would still know Dong-hee and be able to recognize him. And
어느 날 갑자기 내가 벌레가 되면 나는 그래도 그냥 김동일까? 아니 벌레가? 아, 너 거리감 느껴지게 하네. 그게 도대체 뭔 소리야? 처음인지 쓰레기인지 그딴 거 자꾸 이렇게 되는 거 아니야. 그럼 네가 김동이지 뭐냐? 아니 벌레가 되든 풀떼기가 되든 내가 너랑 뻔히 아는데 그게 딴 걸로 보이겠냐? 말도 싶은 소리 하고 있어.
when you see Dong-hee smile, there's just so much context involved, you know? I love that it built that up, because we all know that the bug is the metaphor for like being gay, you know? So like even if Hotae were to find out that Dong-hee was gay, he would still say Dong-hee is just Dong-hee, and that's really what he really wanted to hear in that time, especially as he was going through that relationship with his own father. So I think it was just such a beautiful, beautiful scene. And then, yeah, some more details are Hotae is constantly throughout the drama saying he's hot, and Dong-hee is like, I have no idea why you keep saying you're hot, but it's obviously because Hotae has some feelings, so he's feeling hot because he's got those emotional feelings going on. And then, yeah, there's a lot of moments in which Hotae just keeps staring at Dong-hee, like his face, his body, like just constantly wanting to loiter and be around him. And this is all details that really show that like Hotae is obsessed with Dong-hee. He doesn't know why, and obviously it's in a sexual way, not just a normal way. So, and then I guess I kind of went through this already, but yeah, this leads to the last pro I will mention, because I've already listed a lot. It's just the fact that they have these iconic scenes. I think you can have a good drama, and if nothing stands out, you really have it limited. Like, it can't really have that emotional attachment. It's kind of like AI, I guess. It's like if an AI wrote dramas. But the thing about dramas is that you watch them because they give you like an emotional attachment. Who cares how things objectively feel and, you know, and like should be good? what matters ultimately is, I feel like, your emotional attachment to a drama, which is like what makes it good. There was a lot of that for me. I felt like there were just so many iconic scenes that got me in, like, that got my emotions invested. And so that honestly is, I think, what makes a standout. Like a 9 is pretty high if you ask me in terms of like my ratings. I feel like a standard is like 8 if it does something bad, like 7, and then 9 is like it's really solid. But it gives off 10 vibes, but the reason I am not is for two things. And so let me just talk about them for the cons. The first one is, I did mention earlier that I genuinely cannot see this as a part of Unintentional Love Story. It's just so upsetting to see the same actors, and the chemistry is just not there in the next season, because I literally had to go to Unintentional Love Story and was like, what is their story again? And so I should have been excited and happy to see them again, but I totally forgot that Dong-hee was like a comedic character during Unintentional Love Story. Obviously, they're the side characters, so I wasn't expecting like all the depth, but the thing is, it's just not connected if you ask me, because Dong-hee was this quiet, studious guy. So now he's like working a cafe and he's just like not taken seriously and he's like a joke. And I just thought it just didn't align with the seriousness of Dong-hee that I felt in the time of Fever. So yeah, I also, Unintentional Love Story just happens to not be about them, but I do think it is a downgrade in terms of Hotae and Dong-hee's relationship and everything. I genuinely cannot see how these two things align. Doesn't make sense to me at all. Like, they have the dynamic, but all the chemistry, all the context, none of that is there anymore, which is quite upsetting. And I guess what upsets me is the fact that it exists. Like, if it didn't exist, I would be a little bit more satisfied with this, but also that leads into the next con, that there is no conclusion. So you built this great characters, you developed everything, and the conclusion is supposed to be in Unintentional Love Story, but there is no conclusion there either, because their end is open-ended in Unintentional Love Story as well. So now I'm just, I feel so unsatisfied. You built all this, you gave the story, and there's just no ending. And I'm just not a fan of open-ended things. I don't see a point right now. There's no talks of a season 2. There's no talks of like a sequel or anything. So yeah, so right now we're kind of just left on this note. If there were to be a season 2 or at least a conclusion, I feel like I could rate that a 10, because it's already built up all this story, background, whatever it needs to. And as long as it wraps up well, I would be very happy. Yeah, because I think there's also still a lot more they have to go through in terms of, Hotae still needs to come to terms with his sexuality, and just like in terms of just who he is, because even in Unintentional Love Story, he's still unsure. He was unsure throughout this entire movie as well. And yeah, I would like to see them actually navigate their relationship together versus just both struggling separately and like not saying things. Like, it's time to actually start the communication, and I wonder what happened, what like obstacles they will face after they're together, But yeah, so just a little bit unsatisfying. But yeah, this is a great movie show. But yeah, that is, I think, all for my review. I was so excited to have watched it. It was good. A little bit unsatisfactory, which makes me a little bit angry because I am emotionally invested, but it's pretty iconic. I think I could go back and rewatch some scenes for the chemistry because it's insane. But yeah, I think next week I will go back to doing a Chinese drama. I think it's going to be Are You the One, because I have a lot to say about that as well. I really enjoyed it, and then I really didn't. So yeah, that is all for today's. Thank you for watching. Check out some of my other stuff, and bye-bye.